You're watching TelecomTV from the MEF16 event in Baltimore. And I'm joined now by Allan Langfield, who is Executive Director, Product Management at Comcast and is also MEF Area Director, Operations. Allan, good to see you again.
Great to be here.
The MEF has evolved from its initial focus on Ethernet and carrier Ethernet, and it's looking at orchestration and putting all the different technology enablers in place for this telecoms operation ecosystem. The industry is doing the same thing. So what are we seeing from an MEF perspective with large customers? Are they making the transition the same way? Are they moving towards more on-demand and agile services?
Well, I think we're hearing from a lot of carriers that the work that the MEF did in Ethernet is absent in, say, the IP services space, but also really being a linchpin to effectively doing on-demand managed services. We need those service specifications. We need those operational constructs that are going to support this entire new ecosystem of services that customers are starting to ask for. So carriers are recognizing that, and carriers are coming to the MEF saying, help us orchestrate this, not just purely within their own back office, but help us orchestrate carrier to customer in a way that is very consistent, very reliable, and very on demand.
So is this the East-West relationship we're hearing about this week?
Absolutely. There are some constructs that have been around for quite some time if you look at the ASR in North America and how that's evolved over time. We want to take those things and working with other SDOs, really beef them up, not just for static services, but really dynamic services. So we have everything from serviceability, quoting, ordering, trouble ticketing, billing. The entire relationship can be highly automated, and move to a real-time environment that simply isn't available without those constructs.
And as well as trying to standardize around these interfaces between networks, between different providers, are we also introducing cloud and cloud connectivity, cloud access, cloud services into the mix as well?
Well, we're starting to look at some of those use cases. It invites quite a change in terminology from the traditional telecom environment, but we're also seeing a lot of cloud type terminology really figure into the NFV space. So as we talk about orchestrating connectivity, orchestrating compute, orchestrating storage, those are things that were a little bit more distant from a telecom provider in terms of just thinking about how to do it well for a customer and trying to do it for themselves. So all of this activity is really focused on embracing some constructs that have typically been outside of the telecom space, and getting really good with those. So yes, we can interact internally to deliver services, we can interact with other carriers to deliver services, and we can interact with other technology partners and the end customer in a much more compelling and deeper way.
So how can providers generally increase their network efficiencies and push out and develop these new services?
Well, I think a lot of folks need to really look at SDN and NFV as a platform. Okay. It's not about throwing out the next service or the next 5 services. It's building that flexibility in a platform that lives very, very strongly within that carrier, that's then going to enable the network efficiencies that folks are talking about, the additional services, the on-demand nature of some of these services. Because without that platform, it's going to be very, very hard to cost effectively and in reasonable timeframes implement and deliver these services.
So we're starting to hear some announcements about on-demand services. People are talking about it, but what's the reality going to be? When are we going to see this on a wider scale?
Well, I think directionally, the long-term view of everything is on demand and everything is real-time configurable is great. That's absolutely where we want the industry to go. So at the MEF, we're trying to work with providers and really understand how do we not just focus on the flying cars and jetpacks of tomorrow, which folks really struggle to consume how they'd implement. Instead, focus on what really helps enable them today and sets a path for them to deliver these real-time services. So if we can help carriers first think about how they implement service changes in real time, right? Not a true on-demand, it's dynamic every second of the day, but just move from a bandwidth upgrade or a change in class of service from taking weeks or even days to something that's more real time is the first real big step. And I think that's the exciting thing that we're starting to see people actually start to embrace and say, hey, not only is there a demand for that, not only does it bring revenue in more quickly, but we know how to do that. And once they get to that point, it starts opening the door for, great, how do we do more things in real time, and how do we commercially make that really compelling for the customer and for the service provider?
So what are we seeing from service providers and the industry in general as to what the industry needs to do to support the further delivery of these services?
I think what's exciting is service providers are moving SDN and NFV from lab environments to real operational status. I think in doing so, we're still seeing the technology is immature, right? There's definitely benefit today, but in some cases the economics aren't there to do all of the exciting things that we want to do with service chaining multiple services together and implementing things in software that we're used to only doing in hardware with dedicated devices. Those economics will improve over time. The scalability of how we can implement these services will improve over time. And the interoperability is still an issue that we need to work through. And again, I think the work that we're doing in the MEF goes a long ways to try to drive the commonization and interoperability in that space. But what's exciting is this has really been the first year that we've seen really exciting commercial products leveraging SDN NFV in a really real way. So we're still early. We definitely have a ways to go.
Well, we look forward to the next 12 months, and we'll talk again MEF 17. But
definitely
for now,
looking forward to it.
Allan, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.